Dawn slips across the harbor like a hesitant confession, tracing soft light over the narrow apartment where Lena Kovarik wakes to the uneasy quiet that has followed her for weeks. She lies still for a moment, listening to the distant groan of ships shifting with the tide and the faint hum of the city below. Usually those sounds comfort her. Today they feel like reminders that everything is moving, changing, and she cannot stop any of it. She dresses quickly, tying her hair back with the distracted precision of someone repeating a familiar ritual in hopes that the ritual might keep the world steady. The apartment is small, cluttered with maps and notebooks from her work as a geopolitical analyst, though she rarely mentions her job outside trusted circles. Even among friends, she keeps her words cautious, shaped by an intuition that something precarious is unfolding across continents. When she steps into the kitchen, Tomas is already there, sitting rigidly at the round metal table. He is her younger brother by 6 years, though in the last month the exhaustion around his eyes makes him look older. He has spent long nights monitoring encrypted chatter for the maritime security firm that employs him. His hands wrap around a chipped mug, knuckles pale, as though he needs the warmth to anchor him. "You didn't sleep," Lena says. Tomas shakes his head. Signals spiked again. Movement in several fleets. Nothing confirmed, but patterns are building. Lena studies him. They are alike in many ways: reserved voices, sharp instincts, an inherited ability to read danger before others sense it. But Tomas has always carried tension more visibly, and today it vibrates from him like static. She sits across from him, lowering her voice. "Have you told Armin?" A small, strained smile crosses Tomas's face. "Your boyfriend doesn't need another reason to think I'm paranoid." "He doesn't think that," she says. "He thinks you're scared." Tomas looks toward the shuttered window. Maybe he's right. Outside, the city begins its slow morning stir. Distant horns, thin threads of conversation, a delivery truck rumbling past, but none of it feels fully real. Lena opens the shutters. Gray morning light fills the room. The harbor is still, but armed patrol boats idle farther out than usual. She watches them, her breath slowing. "Tomas," she says, "tell me exactly what you saw." He speaks in the calm, clipped cadence he uses when frightened but controlled. Coordinated position shifts across 3 naval groups. Multiple encrypted bursts from an unfamiliar source. And a blackout from 2 of our usual posts. Could be routine. But it doesn't feel like noise. Before she can respond, a soft chime breaks the quiet. Tomas's phone vibrates. He scans the message, face tightening. "What is it?" Lena asks. He shows her the phone. Unconfirmed incident, Eastern Corridor, data pending. Her chest tightens. "This isn't a drill." "No," Tomas whispers. A knock at the apartment door startles them. 3 sharp raps. Lena's pulse stumbles. She looks at Tomas, who is already on his feet. "Who is it?" she calls. "It's Armin." His voice is steady but urgent. She opens the door. Armin steps inside. His dark coat is damp, his expression strained. He works with the Regional Crisis Coordination Office, a job that rarely intrudes on their mornings unless something significant has occurred. "What happened?" Lena asks. "There's been an event," Armin says. "Details are forming, but the council meets in an hour." "Which kind?" Tomas asks. "A strategic installation was hit. No casualties confirmed yet, but the implications," Armin exhales. "This can't be dismissed." "Do they know who's responsible?" Lena asks. "Not officially." Tomas begins pacing. "It's starting." The signals were warnings. Armin watches him. "We don't know that." "We know enough," Tomas says. Lena steps between them. "Stop." She looks at both men. She trusts them more than anyone, and both are trembling beneath the surface. The weight of responsibility settles in her chest, sharp and immediate. Armin reaches into his coat and pulls out a folded document. "You need to see this." She unfolds it. Coordinates. A timestamp. A description of the strike. And at the bottom, "Further escalation possible." The words blur. Not from tears, but realization. She lowers the paper. What do we do? Armin meets her eyes. We prepare. Quietly. And we stay together. For what? Tomas asks. Armin hesitates, choosing each word carefully. For whatever arrives next. The room grows still, as though the air itself holds its breath. Lena moves to the window again, searching for steadiness in the gray harbor, but the view feels altered. The patrol boats have crept closer, their engines humming like distant warnings. Tomas joins her. If escalation is possible, the timing won't be generous. And civilians will learn last, Lena murmurs. Armin steps forward, posture tense. Announcements are coming, but information is already leaking. People will sense the change before they're told. Tomas rubs his forehead. We should warn the others. Mara, Stefan, everyone deserves time. Not yet, Lena says. Too early causes panic. Too late traps them. Armin nods. We need precision now. The apartment settles into a weighted quiet. Outside, the city continues with fragile normalcy. Footsteps, distant voices, the clatter of a delivery cart. But each sound feels thinner, stretched across an atmosphere that is beginning to shift. Lena studies Tomas and Armin, the two people bound most tightly to her life. Their uncertainty mirrors her own, but beneath it she feels a slow, gathering resolve. We stay calm, she says softly. And we pay attention. A faint vibration ripples through the glass. Not loud, just enough to still their breath. What was that? Tomas whispers. Armin's eyes fix on the harbor. A signal. And not a small one. They stand together, listening to the deep, unnatural quiet that follows. Lena feels the moment settle inside her. A fragile yet undeniable recognition that whatever happens next will test every certainty she has ever held in her life. And in that quiet, the shape of the coming hours changes. Herself. The air carried the faint scent of overheated circuits and something sharper, anticipation or maybe dread, and every few seconds she glanced toward the glass wall overlooking the lower floors, as though expecting someone to appear with an explanation. But explanations had been scarce since dawn, buried beneath locked channels and fragmented reports that refused to form a single truth. She clasped her hands behind her back, grounding herself in the faint pulse of the building. Tomas sat hunched over the console to her right, elbows pressed tightly against his ribs, fingers flying over overlapping screens. Blue and amber lights flickered across his face, highlighting the strain in his jaw. He kept muttering half-formed corrections under his breath, punctuating each failed attempt to stabilize the data feed with a frustrated tap of his stylus. Though he was the youngest analyst on the floor, he carried tension like someone twice his age. Armin stood farther back, arms crossed, gaze fixed on an encrypted briefing frozen mid-refresh. He was older than both of them, not by decades but by enough experience that he seemed permanently poised between caution and action. A streak of gray cut through his dark hair, and the overhead lights caught it each time he moved. He'd been the one who insisted they come in early, who'd sensed the off-pattern movement in the satellite logs hours before the first official alert. And now they're saying the network faults are coincidental, Tomas said without looking up. Coincidental. As if half the continent's sensor grid just took a synchronized nap. Lena forced a breath through her nose. Keep checking. If there's a repeating interval, I want to see it. There is, he replied, voice flat. And that's the problem. Armin turned toward them. How many nodes? 17 confirmed, Tomas answered. But we've lost visibility on at least 6 more. They blink out before we get a read. It's like someone's pulling the cables from reality. The words tightened something in Lena's chest. She stepped closer to the main display, scanning the constellation of red markers spreading across the map like a slow, deliberate infection. Each one represented a strike, small detonations, infrastructure sabotage, targeted grid failures. Individually, they were containable. Collectively, they were a message. What about identification? She asked. Any claims? Any chatter? Nothing reliable, Tomas said. If someone's behind this, they're not interested in credit. They're interested in control, Armin said quietly. Lena felt the truth in that. The attacks were precise, too efficient to be improvised. But it wasn't just the strikes, it was the silence around them, the void of motive. She pressed her fingers to her brow, pushing away the dull ache forming there. She needed clarity, not the spiraling uncertainty that threatened to swallow the room. She moved to the window again, watching the city churn with quiet unease. Sirens flared, then faded. A small crowd gathered at the far gate, each person scanned before entry, their movements taut with fear. A mother clutched her child too hard. A courier abandoned his bicycle mid-ride. 3 soldiers stood guard, staring past the perimeter. The world outside was thinning, routines unraveling. Tomas joined her. "People know," he murmured. "They feel the shift," she answered. Armin added, "Instinct spreads faster than broadcasts." The intercom crackled. Analysts on standby, prepare for scenario escalation. The tone was steady but strained. Tomas tensed. Lena's chest tightened. Escalation meant events had slipped beyond reversal. Armin lowered his voice. "We intercepted unusual patterns. Activity across multiple time zones. Someone's moving while the rest of us are still guessing." Lena turned. "You think the strikes are misdirection? I think the real move is hidden." Tomas scrolled through data with frantic precision. "If it's coordinated, it's architecture, someone shaping the hour-to-hour landscape." Lena felt dread settle. "Then what we're seeing is only the frame." Another vibration hummed beneath the floor. Lights flickered. The building seemed to hold its breath. Tomas whispered, "That wasn't normal." "Generators testing," Armin said, though doubt shadowed his voice. Lena sensed intention in the tremor, as if the structure carried a message only they were meant to feel. She looked at Tomas and Armin, the two whose choices would pull her in different directions. As the widening conflict pressed closer, asking for an answer she wasn't sure she was ready to give. A soft alarm pulsed 3 times, almost cautious, before falling silent. It wasn't the emergency tone, but it was enough to draw every pair of eyes in the room toward the ceiling. The air changed again, thinner, edged with expectation. Armin met their gazes. "Whatever's happening, it's accelerating." Tomas swallowed hard. "And we're still in the dark." Lena felt the moment tightening around them, a hinge between what they thought they understood and what was coming next. The unease outside, the intercepted fragments, the tremor under their feet, they were converging into something unmistakably deliberate. She stepped away from the window, heart steadying with a resolve she didn't expect to find. "Pull the last 5 minutes of underground telemetry," she said. Tomas blinked. "Why underground?" "Because whatever that vibration was, it didn't come from above." Armin's eyes sharpened. "You think it was a signal?" Lena didn't answer immediately. She let the silence press in, a confirmation more telling than words. Something had shifted, inside the city, inside the building, inside her. And as Tomas brought up the new data set, as the first red line spiked across the screen in a pattern she had never seen before, she understood that the conflict wasn't imminent. It had already begun. Dawn pressed against the reinforced windows of the operations floor, a pale and exhausted light that revealed more than it comforted. Lena stood near the central console, arms braced against the edge as if grounding herself in the cold metal. She had barely moved since the telemetry pattern erupted across the screen, its jagged rhythm echoing the tremor beneath their feet. Now the anomaly pulsed in steady intervals, like a heartbeat imposed on the planet itself, and each repetition carried its own accusation, urging them to recognize what they had missed. Tomas hovered beside her, eyes wide, fingers twitching as though the data demanded more from him than analysis. He kept enlarging the waveform, shrinking it, running it through overlays, trying to find a familiar pattern within the chaos. But each new angle only sharpened the strangeness. He pushed his glasses up the bridge of his nose, a gesture that betrayed the panic he refused to acknowledge. Armin paced behind them, steps measured but tense. His posture carried the weight of someone trying to assemble a coherent threat picture from pieces that refused to fit. The morning briefing had offered nothing but contradictions. Rumors of covert mobilizations, silent fleets, a blackout in one region followed by unexplained power surges in another. There was no single narrative, only fragments of possibility, each more alarming than the last. "This isn't seismic," Tomas murmured. "It's too controlled." Lena nodded, her jaw tightening. "And it's not mechanical. The intervals are deliberate." Armin stopped pacing. "So someone is sending a signal underground?" "Not someone," Lena said quietly. "Many." The words hung in the air like a cold draft. Tomas turned toward her, eyebrows pulled into a troubled arc. "Coordinated." "That's the only explanation that fits," she replied. Armin drew closer, lowering his voice. "If the signals are underground, they're bypassing detection. That means they were planned long before today." Lena swallowed hard. The realization dug into her like a splinter. She had hoped the strikes, the blackouts, the distortions in satellite feeds were reactive, proof of a crisis spiraling faster than its architects intended. But this was the shape of intention. A design. Tomas adjusted the frequency filter, and the waveform shifted again. This time, a faint second pattern emerged beneath the first, a shadow signal, echoing the primary rhythm with a delay of 4 seconds. He froze. "There's another layer." Lena leaned in. "Show me." He isolated the signal, amplifying it until the secondary waveform glowed across the display. It was softer, almost hesitant, but its structure was deliberate. Together, the two pulses formed a sequence that repeated every minute. With each cycle, unease thickened. Armin exhaled slowly. "It's a countdown." The words hit Lena with the force of something she had already known, buried beneath denial. She stared at the oscillating lines, feeling the same rising dread she had sensed in the harbor. The world was shifting beneath them, and no broadcast or announcement would be enough to describe what was coming. Tomas whispered, "How long?" Lena calculated quickly, following the pattern to its end. 6 hours. Maybe less. Armin stepped to her side. "Then we alert the council immediately." "Not yet," she said. Both men stared at her. She felt their shock but held her ground. "We need confirmation. If we go to them with partial data, they'll dismiss it as noise." Armin's voice darkened. "We don't have the luxury of waiting." "We don't have the luxury of being wrong," she countered. Silence stretched out, taut and trembling. Outside, the city hummed with muted anxiety. Patrol vehicles traced slow paths along the waterfront. Helicopters stitched the sky with distant mechanical thrum. Even the gulls circled lower than usual, unsettled by shifting air. Lena returned to the console. "We find the source. Once we know where the signals originate, we'll have leverage." Tomas swallowed. "There are dozens of possible entry points." "Then start with the oldest," she said. "Look for pre-war tunnels, abandoned relays, anything built to survive an attack." Armin watched her, something softer in his expression, a mixture of admiration and fear. "You're doing that thing again." "What thing?" "Assuming responsibility for the world's collapse." She almost smiled. "Someone has to." He stepped closer, lowering his tone. "If this is part of a coordinated plan, we're not just observers. We're targets." She met his gaze without flinching. "Then we act like it." Before he could respond, the lights flickered. Twice, then once more, as though responding to the underground pulse they had yet to locate. A soft vibration rolled through the floor, stronger this time. Tomas's voice broke. "It's syncing with the signal." The vibrations aligned with the pulses on the screen, each tremor a physical confirmation of their worst fear. The city wasn't just sensing the pattern. It was becoming part of it. Armin's phone chimed. He checked it, eyes narrowing. Restricted alert. Command wants all senior analysts on standby for a briefing in 20 minutes. Lena felt her heartbeat rise. They know something. Or they've lost control of something, Armin said. Tomas shook his head. If the countdown is real, whatever they say won't matter. Lena stepped closer to the display. She watched the waveform repeat, relentless and calm, like someone knocking from beneath the earth. It was not a warning. It was a summons. A cold realization crept over the room as the machinery hummed, a low mechanical breath that seemed to answer the pulses beneath them. Lena felt the air thicken, charged with expectation, as though the facility were bracing for a message no human had asked to receive. Somewhere deep within the structure, a relay clicked, soft but deliberate, like a domino tipping forward. She turned toward Tomas and Armin, voice steady despite the fear threading through her. "Get ready. We're not walking in blind." "And if the countdown reaches 0 while we're in there?" Tomas asked. Lena looked back at the pulsing signal, its glow reflecting in her eyes, an echo of a truth she could no longer outrun. "Then we'll finally see what's waiting in the dark."